Good evening, and thanks to GAHFA for hosting this, and it's great to see the citizens from the Tri-Cities of Garland, Raleigh, and Saxe. I am Linda Griffin, and I am the sitting incumbent in place 3 of the school board. It has been just an honor and a privilege to serve in this role. I believe in kids, and I believe that kids want to be successful if given all of the right opportunities, access, and resources. Garland ISD is a district of choice. We have many programs, from academic programs to athletic programs to CT programs to home building to construction to anything you can think of with the CTE. So we are a district on the move with a vision, and I say to you, we have a plan to move forward so that all kids are successful. That's what we are in education for. And I say to you, it's not time to interrupt the team, and it's not time to break up the team. It's time for the team to stay together so we can deliver to the community the vision so that all children in Garland ISD, all 56,000, will be successful. Not a few. All kids will be successful. We're on a plan of change. Thank you. I am Linda Griffin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony, for having us tonight. And I'll introduce myself to you. Ms. Griffin's been on the school board for many years, so you probably know her. I'll give you a little introduction about myself. I was born in this community in 1943, lived with a great mother and dad, grew up on the farm, so I learned the value of a day's work very early in my life. Went to high school here to my mid-sophomore year. Have 2 children, 4 grandchildren that graduated from Garland Independent School District. So I know the district, I love the district, and I think everything she said, I would say amen to that. We have a great district. We're here for our kids. I'm here for our kids too, because there's some things that have happened in the past that I want to look back at, and I want to try to do better in the future. We're talking about another bond issue, and I want to be a part of that because the last bond issue wasn't handled properly, in my opinion. And I can talk to you privately about that, or maybe in a later forum. Like I said, I grew up in this community, went to high school, went to Nevada Community High School. That's where I met my lovely wife. We'll be married 57 years this year, this November. God did a strange thing in my life then, but now I understand why he did it. Worked in banks for 47 years in this community, and I have been an avid supporter of this community since 1962.
Thank you, Duckworth. And I will ask the candidates that are going to be up here, please stay on course, stay on the question, please answer the question, and limit your comments to the question as much as possible, okay? For that, let me ask the panel to start off with the question.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. I'm Ms. Griffin, Mr. Duckworth. I'm going to get started today with the first prepared question, and that is, the GISD student population continues to decrease. As a trustee, what do you plan to do to resolve this problem? And please be specific in your response.
Thank you for that question. Yeah, I was at a meeting the other day, and I think the statement was our district has dropped the equivalent of a high school, which is somewhere in the 2,000 range. What I would plan to do as a trustee, and the question came up in a previous forum about the different schools that we have in our city. And my comment was that where there's a vacuum, something will come about for that. And so the addition of the different school programs we have, the church schools or other school programs we have, are filling a need that our school district isn't providing. My plan is we've got to figure out what those are so we can get those students back if we can provide the same thing they're leaving the district for to come back to our district. And I think it's as simple as that. We're providing an education to those children, but apparently we're failing somewhere. And not being on the inside, and Ms. Griffin may have more inside information than I do, but I think you can always figure out a reason why something is happening if you dig deep enough.
A couple of reasons for the decline. Parents have choice, And it's up to the parents to decide where they want to see their kids, whether they want it in private school, charter school, or public school. What are we doing? When I told you about that plan, we have a visionary plan as we have looked to see what is happening. Therefore, we're offering more programs. The state held us down for a number of years because they didn't put the same weights on career and technology type of courses. Now those courses are carrying the same weight. So what we have now is a more robust plan for children to make choices. But don't be mistaken, the kids are only leaving for a moment. They leave in elementary, but they actually come back in middle school because of the wide range of programs that are there. So when we look at what's happening, talk to your state legislators, and if they would control the charter schools and put them under the same accountability, then that's what we need to be doing in our school district. They come back, and we welcome them back. Thanks.
Okay, for the next question, as one of the few remaining school districts with an at-large electoral system for school trustees, what is the rationale for maintaining the current at-large system versus single-member districts for trustees? Is the GISD in legal peril over its at-large electoral system? Please be specific in your reply. Is the GISD in legal peril over its at-large electoral system? Please be specific.
The at-large government for the Garland Independent School District has nothing to do with any legal anything. It is a choice that was made by the school district. When we look at the choices and the representation of the availability of schools and resources in our district, most people go to single-member districts for several different reasons. It is an issue that we have not discussed. It's an issue that we have on our to-do list. Does one serve anyone better than the other one? Not exactly sure, but a lot of it has to do with what the city and the school district collectively wanted to do. Our kids are not missing out on anything in terms of being an at-large district. There are things about representation, and if you look at our sitting school board, we have representation all over the Tri-Cities, and this is a representation that we've never had before. So although we might not have gone to single-member that represent the Tri-Cities of Garland, Raleigh, and Saxe, we're having no legal issues in terms of why we can't go to a single-member district.
Thank you. The at-large, as she said, it covers all three cities, which is a large area. And I think the challenge of the citizens is to get representation from their areas. If they feel like they want somebody from Raleigh, Saxe, Garland, I think we have, as she said, a fair representation from all over the city. But the cities that I've seen go to single-member districts, that are those that seem to concentrate in a particular area of the city, and I don't see that as a challenge we have in the city. I would like to see the ethnic groups in our city represented on the school board, and I think over the years that can change. And so single-member districts is not something I've heard talked about, and don't know there's not a legal reason that we have to. The school board has the ability to suggest that or bring it to the citizens. And at this point, I don't know any move, as she said, to not stay at an at-large district.
Thank you. Local school property taxes, and what else can the district do in the future? Please be specific in your answer.
I don't know of anything any taxing authorities have done in the last 5 years to lower the taxes for the citizens. You hear statements made, we can't lower your taxes. That's not exactly true, because your taxes are based on a tax rate that is set by the taxing authority. What we've all been challenged with is the appraisal district, and they get the blame for most of it. Our homes go up in value. We like that, but we don't like the additional taxes that go along with that sometimes. But there is a way to keep those taxes down or lower, and it's based on the tax rate that the entity applies to the district. in the cities that are under that tax plan. So the district's growing, the cities are growing. I mean, all the candidates for the city here, we all face the same challenge, and that's in the school district, and that's educating the children, and it takes a lot of money to do that today. There's so many special needs. There's all kinds of needs that are coming up. Dyslexia, the school district is about to spend, or has that program underway, and it's a challenge to fund a lot of these special need programs, and it takes dollars to do that.
Let me first begin by saying we appreciate you paying your school taxes, but I want you to understand that the school district only gets returned or only is able to keep 38% of every dollar that is paid in school taxes. That's number one. Number two, the way you control taxes is when we rolled out the 2014 bond, we said that we were trying to keep the tax rate at the same rate. And probably over the last 3 to 4 years, you all have remained at $1.04 in your property taxes. And our INS has been at 21 cents. So when you look at taxing, it's about everything in terms of how you go up. What governs our rate is what the state tells us that we are basically able to do. And in Garland and on the school board, we have been putting our citizens above everything else. So we have tried to keep the tax rate lowered. Now, with this legislative session that is in progress right now, there are 2 reforms that are going on which compete with each other. It's lowering the taxes, and then it's educational reform. So know that we cannot raise your taxes without us coming back to you for a vote. And then you will decide if you want those taxes to go up or not, and we will readjust our plans and basically our direction. But notice and note that since we did the bond, over $455 million, your tax rate has remained the same. So those are the avenues that you do to maintain your tax rates.
Thank you very much. The next question, after almost 50 years, the GISD is one of 2 school districts in Texas still under the federal desegregation order. To your knowledge, what part of the order has GISD still not complied with? When can the school district expect to have the court order lifted, and under what circumstances?
Thanks for asking that. I became interested in this subject 6 months ago. I've attended the last 3 multi-ethnic committee meetings, which is the group that in the school district that were assigned according to the court order. I'm learning. I've asked the general counsel for the GISD to sit down with me and help me to understand. I'm waiting for that meeting to happen. I go to those meetings and listen very intently. What little I know, there should be a way to get out from under that order, but I'm not going to say for certain we should, because I need to be educated. I got a package of papers that thick the other day. The school district does a report every 6 months. It's called the Kincaid Report. And it goes to this committee and it goes to the trustees. I haven't heard that report talked about by the trustees. I assume, or I guess they did it in executive session. So I think as the public, you need to be interested. You can go to those meetings. They're public meetings and you can learn. And I'm trying to educate myself, because if I am successful in taking this seat, that's something I want to learn more about. If we need to be there, there needs to be a reason, but I need somebody to tell me what it is. And I need to understand why it is.
The court order has been in existence for handling the changes in our demographics in the Tri-Cities of Garland, Raleigh, and Saxon. We talk about the court order as a negative, but this school district has experienced the positive from the court order. How can we get from up under it? What areas have not been in compliance? There are several areas that have not been in compliance. I want to say that we do not discuss the court order and what we're doing in executive session. And the Kincaid report that's referred to comes to us as an information item. It is not a discussion item. The multi-ethnic committee is a committee that has 3 to 4 assignments that they review. They are not there to constantly review what the court order says. Long and short, we have not complied totally with the order. And before you ask for the order to be removed, you have to have a very detailed plan of what's going to happen. We keep hearing we're only 2 districts. I think there's one more. But the point is, if you go back to those districts where the court order has been lifted, go back and look at their accountability rating. They did not maintain the same accountability rating. So for Garland, we're not going to step out because something appears to be outdated. We cannot move something of this magnitude without having it clearly thought out. And the public will understand and know when there's time to know what we're doing. Right now, it is not on the table of an upcoming deal. Also know that the court order is a public document. So if you want to look at what the 77 court order said or the 87 revision, it's a public document that you can go and look. Judge Kincaid has never commented negatively on anything that's going on. But for the court order, we must remember who the plaintiff was. And the plaintiff was the NAACP. So when we start this process of moving, we can't move with doing or changing anything without the cooperation of the NAACP. It's a partnership, and it's just that complicated to dissect. So I just encourage you to look at the good that's happening. And when the time comes, there will be public information released when we're looking at that.
Thank you. Thank you both.